Hello, everyone. So tonight I'm answering some questions from my viewers. And today's viewer, we've got a Miss Maddie Jane. Miss Madeline Joan. She was feeling uh, tired and gray and potatoy. And her question was, is painting therapeutic? So while I talk about uh, I'm going to get some colors on my canvas that kind of make me feel, or that are kind of tired, gray, and potatoy. So I am using, again, watercolors, how I get started on these colors. So I do a lot of water and then just a hint of color and kind of get it to mix around and make it even more like when we try to mix colors, we want it soupy. So even more so than soupy. And so I've got a good color here. I am gonna get um, just a little bit of white. And my color that I'm going with is going to be, so a fun fact for Miss Madeline Joan, I personally do not eat regular potatoes. I eat sweet potatoes. And so I am going to make this into a little bit more of a sweet potato color. And so I'm just getting some very sweet potatoey color. And it's going to be as close as I can get to the color of a sweet potato. And it actually looks a little bit more like salmon. I don't actually, I don't have a sweet potato with me in my painting studio, but it's close. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a sweet potato on here. Now, my sweet potatoes are they're weird shaped. Uh, and this is pretty nice and watery. And you can see that I'm working on, I'm going to get as much water as possible on here. So I'm working on paper tonight. And so this is going to be much more absorbent. It almost looks like an eye. And so Miss Madeline Joan said that she was also feeling um, gray. And so I'm going to get a little bit of gray on here. And I've got some white to give me some different shades of gray. And after doing this, I can see that I definitely need a lot more water if I'm going to get that to spread out the way I like. So I'm just going to get my brush a little bit wet, get some gray on here, and I'm just going to fill this out. And I'm not going to get it into the potato yet, but this tired gray color, I'm just going to kind of get that on this little piece of paper, and I'll tell you about how this little paper came about and while it's drying. And then I'm going to get into my water again, and I'm going to just blend these two colors together. And they're not going to blend that great because I'm working on paper instead of canvas, but the idea is that we want it to blend as much as possible and just see what we get out of this nice sleepy, kind of looks like a sleepy potato. And this color isn't showing that great on my canvas. I think that might be because I don't have enough light. It's okay. But it's very, very light. So when I do get this light on, you'll see that it's kind of a sweet potato color. I do think it was better with the light off. Sorry to keep changing. So we've got this kind of sweet potatoey color, and then it's kind of a gray in the background. And that's all that I'm going to do for now. But what I'm going to do while we wait for that to dry is I'm going to answer Miss Madeline Jones' question. So I don't know that I have enough room to do both without messing with my camera. So Um, kind of I want you to see it drying, but I also want to answer this question. The question is painting therapeutic? Now, I, like every other teacher, I always answer everything in a yes and a no. So we're going to go with the yes, and we're going to go with the no. So yes and no. So painting is therapeutic, and the reasons why is because I am good at it. So, um, so I just have some natural abilities that I happen to have. I've always been super creative since I was little. I used to be more involved in music when I was younger. I wrote or I arranged a lot of music when I was a kid, um, and was in band in high school, and then music kind of fell by the wayside, and I got into photography for a while. So I've always been very creative, and so I just have those natural abilities. But I've also developed skills. So a lot of the techniques that I use, and even this technique of doing intuitive painting is it is a skill that I learned by taking a class. So I went to uh, just some different workshops around the area, different classes around the area to build my painting skills. And so because I have both abilities and skills, I'm relatively decent at painting, and I'm relatively creative, and so that makes it enjoyable to me because I've done I kind of just naturally have the skills, and then I build those skills. And so that combination of abilities and skills, every time that I do something good, I get a little reward. So this is a reward to me because I'm doing something that I'm good at. And so when I think of therapy, a lot of what therapy is techniques that make us feel better, or they make us feel good. And so when I do something that I'm good at naturally, or that I'm good at because I've worked at it, I feel good about myself. And so that's a big deal. So that makes me feel happy. So that's a therapeutic piece. It makes me feel good. So as far as what is not therapeutic about painting is the time. This is a huge time commitment. If you've watched my previous video, um, to do the last painting that I did, it took a combination of all the videos combined with about 3 hours, and then another about hour as I was learning how to edit the videos. So like that is time. And a lot of people don't always have time. So it's very stressful to make the time. And we often, we often make excuses about why we don't have the time. But what I would say is, like, I'm not much of an excuse maker. Um, it's more that I get stressed when I have to try to come up with the time. So like coming up with the time to do this video, that piece is stressful because I do have other things going on in my life. But what I've decided is that it is more of a priority for me to be happy and for me to feel like I am contributing something to society. And it's not necessarily something that is going to get me money, but it's something that makes me feel good, like I've contributed this artwork to society. And so finding the time, the way that I actually did this, so the way that I found time to do this technique or this piece of um, this thing that makes me feel good. So something that utilizes my natural abilities and the skills that I've built up over the years, I schedule it. So what I did is I actually scheduled painting classes, and that helped build my skills. So that's how I got over that. And so those painting classes, they're everywhere, kind of all over the US. So the ones that I went to, sometimes are called paint and sips. Um, I forget what the other ones are called, but usually they're called a paint and sip, and they're just local studios will have some time where you can paint. It takes about 2 hours, and they just walk you through how to paint, make a painting, and it's super fun. And so by limiting it to that 2 hour window, I can find time. I can make a 2 hour window work. The price usually it's very affordable to go to those types of classes. So that's how I built my skills. And then now this is less of a stress. It used to be more of a stress, but now it's not. Now that I'm doing my own paintings and original works, the time that I spend thinking about them is actually stuff that I'm already doing. So if I'm going to go for a walk, then I have, like, I can think about the types of paintings. So for example, when I got this question, my immediate thought was a sweet potato. And so that's where I came up with the idea of the sweet potato. And the time that it takes me to paint it, it's very little time. So yes, I would say painting is mostly therapeutic once I'm doing it. It's the finding the time that gets to be stressful. So just getting up to that moment of having the time, that's the part that's stressful. But if you're looking to do something that's good for you, think about the things that you're already good at. Think about the things that you know how to do just because you've been doing them for a while, and then schedule, find a way to schedule that time so that you can just do it without thinking about it. It's on your calendar, you've paid for something, you just go and you do it. And it gives you that little boost of feeling good, like you've contributed to society, like you've just done something good for yourself. It's a very cool feeling. So yes, I would say it is therapeutic, but it's stressful to find the time. So now that we're done with that, I'm going to just quick check. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about this medium that I'm using for this painting. So I am using just a piece of mixed media paper. I fold it in half and I put a border around it with some tape to kind of hold it in place, but also to create a border. Now, what I do with these is I make cards for people. And so for this, we're going to call Miss Madeline Joan the sleepy sweet potato. So for the sleepy sweet potato, um, I went with, uh, so I essentially made this into a card so it would flip up. And I don't know that it's going to look like a sweet potato when I'm done. I'm just going to kind of keep mixing and matching paints until I get something on here. Now we're going to follow the same process. And again, the lighting is pretty bad in this room. So we're going to see if maybe getting some extra color on here will help. I'm going with, so the colors that I'm mixing to get that sweet potato are my cadmium red, primary yellow, and I've got some titanium white. And I think I'm going to be going with a lot of the white. Just mixing them up, seeing if I can get something that's close to that color. And it's kind of a, I'm almost betting that I'm going to need hardly any of this red because that is a very strong red. And then and it's almost pink, and then I got just a dab of yellow. And it's a little too much yellow. So it is going to be a little bit of mixing and matching, playing with this color, getting some water in here, seeing if I can get it close. It is darn close. So again, I'm going with lots of water. And so the technique that I'm using is very similar to my previous videos. And again, this is just in response to a question that I received from a viewer. And I am going to, just because I'm having trouble seeing it, I am going to keep messing with the light, and I apologize for that, that it is going to go kind of back and forth between being difficult to see and not difficult to see, just based on the lighting in here. So I am going to go with, there's like a little part that's a little bit darker up here, and um, and then some lighter parts. So I'm just gonna kind of, and I'm almost perfectly matched with this color, which is crazy. And I'm just gonna get as much of this color on my, and I see some white spots, so I kind of wanna leave those. And I'm gonna add some white later on. See if I can get it to, so that's good for that. And now I'm just gonna add a good chunk of white to my existing sweet potato color and just make it a little bit lighter. And then I'm gonna add that color into this. So I'm just kind of adding, so there's just that little bit of a lighter sweet potato that's kind of coming through. And there's like little sweet potatoes colors in here. And I am going off of my thing a little. It's fine. And this kind of loops up a little bit. So I'm going to actually just get my brush wet. I'm going to start blending these two colors in a little bit and just getting them to touch a little bit. And I see that there's some more sweet potato here. And then now I'm gonna get my brush completely clean. Uh, Again, we've got some blacks. It does look like some of that sweet potato is going into the black. So, so we've got some whites and some grays. I'm just gonna get just a hint of black on my palette and um, just the tiniest amount because there's really not anything that's too black. So I've got Mars Black is what I'm using for my black. And I'm going to get kind of getting my white on over to the black palette side, just using the same white that I was using before, and then just adding copious amounts of water and just the tiniest hint of black to get some gray, and it went a long way. So this will be for the darker parts, and then we'll add um, more white to make that a little bit lighter. This is kind of almost like a navy ship gray. So I'm just going to go kind of in those dark areas where I got some of that, where those darker gray kind of popped out. And again, these particular colors, I'm going to be honest, I probably would have never chose them, but that's okay. That's the beauty of this. It's this is whatever the people in the videos want, then or the people that are asking me questions, just kind of using whatever colors they give me, and that's how we're going to make the art. So again, I'm just adding a little bit more white to get to some of these lighter areas, and you probably can't see it in the video, but this is mixed in a little bit. There's some of that sweet potato color, so I'm gonna just grab a chunk of that and add that in just to kind of match that a little bit better and get those lighter colors going. And then definitely need quite a bit more water. And I don't want to mix too much or blend yet, but I'm just trying to get the colors on canvas. And this softer brush stroke, this kind of is my bread and butter, so that's kind of the general brush stroke that I use for when I'm starting out. As I'm starting to define these lines. So now I'm going to add back into my water, and I'm going to kind of just go through and get those colors kind of blended, those lighter salmon grays, mixing them with the existing sweet potato color, just getting them to let it touch and get together, and then rinsing my brush just the hands, and then getting those grays to blend, and wherever those grays are touching. And I've got some outer colors that I didn't really know what I wanted to do with, so I think I'm going to just add, I'm going to make this a little bit darker on the outsides. So just again, a little scoop of black, it'll go a long way. I kind of got a salmony color going on, that's okay. But just getting a lot of water into that and seeing what I end up with. It's still not dark enough, so another, and it's basically I just want it dark enough so that it makes it look a little different than the existing. This is much better, just so it has some of that layering. Get as much the paper as possible. Now I picked paper because it does dry a little bit faster than canvas. Canvas, we have to wait a whole day for us to look at this. And so again, just getting water in here to mix those two grays together. See how they blend. Okay, and that is, oh, there's a little bit of spot here. I think I got everything. Okay, so that's our sleepy sweet potato, and I'm going to zoom in as much as I can to show the colors. They're very, very abstract. So basically, I just darkened in and lightened where the colors that already were there. I'm going to let this dry overnight, and Miss Madeline Joan is just for asking a question, and then I'm going to pass this along to her so that she has this. And if you have any questions for me, and you can answer, if you can tell me kind of how you're feeling, the colors and shapes that you have, I can answer those questions for you. Have a great night.